Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference show, and Make a Difference Together, that is, where we are interviewing successful business owners to hear their stories of their journey to building their business. And because we know that achieving success doesn't happen on our own, we recognize the folks that came alongside us and helped us excel. I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from the HVAC and plumbing industry with us today. My guest is the president of Peterman Brothers, located in Indianapolis. He is a guru on leadership with a podcast called Can't Stop the Growth. Please join me in welcoming Chad to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, the president here at Peterman Brothers. My dad started the business back in 1986. Myself and my brother now run the company. Dad's still semi-involved, but to a lesser degree now. We provide residential heating, plumbing, and now actually electrical as well services to customers in the Indianapolis area, as well as Lafayette, Muncie, Bloomington, Columbus, and most recently we have another brand called Freedom Heating and Plumbing up in Fort Wayne. So business has grown over the years, and I think maybe why our paths crossed was we have a huge focus on growing our people internally, which in turn we believe grows our business.
Fantastic. So were you born in Indy? Tell me a little bit about your family and some of your hobbies.
Yeah. So born in Indy, South Sider. I went to Roncalli on the South Side for high school, and then went to Wabash College for back. I graduated in '09. Family, been married for 5 years and some change. To my lovely wife, Emily. She works for Purdue Sports Properties, and having a good year in the basketball scene right now. So that's always good at home. And then we've got two little ones. We got she'll be 3.5 at the end of February, daughter named Blake. And then he'll be 6 months old on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday's the 5th. On Saturday, son named Julian. So we live downtown in Fletcher Place, and enjoy getting out to the lake in the summer. And then in the winter, in fall, obviously we are our family's Purdue fans to make everything go smoothly at home. So watch a lot of football, and then nowadays some basketball as well.
Fantastic. So Chad, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share?
Funny story. So I'm somewhat kind of my morning routine kind of conflicts with with everybody in the family. So I get up at about 3 a.m. each morning
Oh,
to start my day, reading and journaling and doing all sorts of things. So that gets on my family's nerves quite a bit. With a 6-month-old, it's come in handy here recently because he's up at who knows when. So I often get the morning feeding, which helps out my wife. So that all works out. But yeah, I would say their disdain for me in early mornings. I'm just happy they keep me around.
yeah. Well, fantastic. So when you get up that early, do you go to bed earlier, or how do you manage your day?
Yeah, so that would be the other probably funny part of the story is my wife always says that we can't ever watch a show together or anything like that because I go to bed about 9 o'clock, 9:30, depending on when the kids decide their bedtime is at a certain time. However,
Yes.
with young kids, sometimes they have a mind of their own. So,
Yes.
so go to bed a little bit earlier than probably most. But yeah, that's how I manage my day. Kind of get that quiet time in the morning for
Fantastic.
myself.
So Chad, tell us how the business came about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could take over?
Yeah, so my dad started the company in '86, grew it over the years, was a heating company only. I joined in 2011, really just kind of learning the business. I have no background in the trades or anything like that. Obviously, I've been around it, so I guess you could consider that background.
Yes.
But not a technician by trade. And joined in 2011. In 13, we added plumbing. My brother started. We made our first acquisition then, and it wasn't until about 15 where my dad was kind of handed over the keys to me and my brother to let us kind of build out kind of what our vision of the company was going to look like. So from that point forward, we've really focused in the residential space and really, kind of growing our presence there.
Fantastic. And I know that you just recently went through a rebranding. I've seen the trucks out. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. Excuse me. So let's see, that was probably almost a year ago now is when we started the project. We hired an outside firm to basically do all the design work. And it didn't start out as Peterman Brothers. It started out as just, we used to be Peterman Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, but we knew we were going to add electrical as well. And so you can only fit so many words on the side of a truck at some point in time. So, and it's really hard to say. So one of the things internally everyone loves about the new brand is it's very easy to say where you work rather than stringing out that entire thing. So, but the idea came kind of coincided with all of our other marketing. So my brother and I have ever since we kind of started have really made a push to make sure that we appear on the ads as giving kind of customers that peace of mind that this is who you're dealing with. If you got a problem, one of our guarantees is what we call our owner's voice guarantee. So if you got a problem, you can call up and ask to speak with one of us, and we'll gladly talk to you and make sure that we get whatever it is resolved or taken care of, or
Oh, that's great.
what have you. And so with us being so prominent in all of our other advertising, we now have, I think, over 200 trucks on the road. So having that, really kind of tying everything together, they wanted to put my face on there as, like I said, a cartoon shall do. So I get a lot of flack from my close friends and stuff like that, which is perfectly fine. But it definitely has made a statement, and we've definitely seen our call volume go up while we've left really all of our other marketing kind of the same. That being the only thing we've changed. We've definitely seen an uptick in that. And I think it's because even when I see them out on the road, it definitely grabs your attention over what we previously had was just a white van with it was logoed, but just not as kind of in your face, if you will.
Yeah. Well, if the only thing your friends are teasing you about is your cartoon version of you, I think you're getting off lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I figure, hey, you don't have a cartoon of you, do you? So it's all fun.
So, Chad, share us a story of when someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do more than you thought you could, and what the impact of that had on you.
Yeah, so I was actually doing an interview the other day, and we were talking about kind of the time that my dad kind of handed over the reins of the business to myself and my brother. Um, at the time I was 28, my brother was 25. And for someone to show that much belief in two young kids who obviously didn't know what they didn't know, and probably in his eyes didn't know a lot of things, but to hand us kind of the keys to a company that he had built for, at that time, 20, well, what would that be, 15, about 30 years of his life that he poured into it, to hand that over to somebody, I think is a driver for me every day that I come to work. The fact that someone, had that much belief and trust in us to take something that they built and push it forward, it's inspiring. And I think it's why our culture is like it is today, and why we are so, um, just eager to place our trust in those that we work with, and let them, feel that empowerment and to go, make mistakes if that's what it is, but, to really carve their own path and to drive the business forward.
Wonderful. What's your dad's name?
So my dad goes by, his real name is Stanley, but he goes by Pete.
Okay. Fantastic.
His dad's name was Stanley as well. So as a little kid, they just called him Pete,
Okay.
to tell the two apart. So everybody always jokes, who would name their kid Pete Peterman? That's so weird. It's like, well, they didn't really give him that name, try to protect my grandma.
There you go. Awesome. Chad, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
I think the biggest learning, is just understanding that we're all growing, and that growth and along with goals is simply to act appropriate in the moment. It's not to achieve goals. It's not to celebrate them it's not a destination. It is simply a means to direct our actions. And I think when we understand what the purpose of goals and what the purpose of growing are, we start to change, and we start to change for the better. And for me, that has been one of the things where, growing up, we all kind of pride ourselves on, yeah, my parents made me set goals and I set goals as a kid and all of this. And we judge our success based on if we hit those goals or not. And what I've learned over the years is it's not really about that. And in fact, we're better not to hit goals so long as we set them high enough,
Right.
so that it pulls us along and it influences our behavior on a daily basis, to achieve more than we may have even thought possible.
Yeah. I love that perspective. To your point, we're often taught, either directly or indirectly, to set smaller goals so that we can achieve them. And then we never realize our full potential because we're not stretching ourselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's just an awesome perspective of what I heard you say is, it's okay not to hit them. But when you do set those big, hairy, audacious goals and you don't hit them, you probably achieved more than you would have had you set a goal you thought was realistic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a prime example of that is this year. So, our budget, and a lot of people, is to double the size of the company. Now, are we gonna double the size of the company in 365 days? God, it's gonna be tough. But what we look at is not, ooh, are we going to get there? Are we on pace? Are we acting today as if we were that company? What would that company that's 2 times as big as ours, what would they act like? What would they have in place? What things would they be working on? What things would they find important? And to me, that is a whole different question than, well, we'd like to grow 10% this year. Well,
Right.
that's great, but growing 10% is acting a lot like you did yesterday.
Yeah.
Like 10% sometimes can just kind of happen.
Yeah.
One big client or one big project, or, in our industry, hey, we got a lot of great weather and it was really hot or really cold or whatever it is. Like, we may fall into 10, but we're not going to fall into 100.
Right.
So how are we going to have to act to get there? And how do we start doing that today?
Fantastic. So, Tad, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges over the years, and a fellow business owner who came alongside of you and helped you through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been blessed. In 15, I mentioned we joined some trade organizations. So one of those, and probably the most influential, is a group called the Next Star Network. And the Next Star Network is a collection of, I think it's close to 800 residential, basically heating, plumbing, and electrical contractors across the country. And regardless of what industry you're in, I think you can take this advice and run with it, because there's so many people out there that are willing to help. And so, being part of this organization, they offer us advice on best practices, customer service, not so much technical, but more so customer facing, and then behind the scenes kind of process stuff. And the one thing that we were able to do is to go out and see a lot of businesses. we were able to go into other people's shops and see how they were operating and things that they had, maybe messed up and fixed, and oh, let's not do that when we get to that point, and all of that stuff. And I have just had so many mentors along the way that are literally, I mean, just so gracious with their time, that it's a text here or an email there, and they're right back like, hey, yeah, actually check out this resource, or hey, let me connect you with this person in our organization, they have a ton more information on what you're asking. And so really what that has done is really influenced our behavior. And so I think last year we gave between 20 and 30 tours of our building, to other contractors across the country, even contractors here in our own market that we compete with. Because in our business, and probably in most, there's plenty of work out there.
Right.
The work is not, there's plenty of people, plenty of houses, plenty of all that stuff. It's more so, how do we, on a larger scale, how do we influence our industry? How do we grow together to make the world a better place, even if that is just making it better when it comes to fixing your furnace. Like, that's our small part. But we can also influence a lot more things. So yeah, the role of mentors and people coming alongside us, as we've gotten bigger, we play that role now, which is really cool and really gratifying. And anytime someone's like, God, you spend a lot of time with all these other people, and like, they're not paying you for it, and I'm like, well, we wouldn't be here without others doing that for us. So it's our turn to do that for others.
I love your abundance mentality of, there's more than enough business out there, so I'm going to pay it forward and help the next smaller business because somebody reached out and helped me. It's not a lot of people think that way. That's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what allowed you the confidence to be able to think that way? Because a lot of people have the scarcity mindset, right? Of, hey, I can't share my ideas with my competitors because, right, there's not enough business to go around. So what is there a story or an experience that led you to have that abundance mentality?
Yeah, I think it is just similar to what I talked about earlier, is, kind of that growth journey, and relating everything back to leadership. And, as I've studied and learned about leadership, the one thing that continues to come out to me is leadership is all about helping others. We help others on a daily basis as it relates to their heating, plumbing, and electrical needs in their home, but we can also help others in what we've learned as a business. And to me, it's not always about what's in it for me, because, as you so eloquently pointed out at the beginning, is it's about helping others. And if we help enough other people, we'll get where we want to get. Because it's very common for me to host a tour of 2 to 3 companies on a Thursday afternoon, and I learn from them. And they may be a fraction of our size, but they're doing something really cool that we could do, maybe a little bit differently, but it's all the same concept. But it's just a willingness to help others. You get far more in return. And I feel like it's so, people just, in order to be a leader, you got to be vulnerable. You got to trust in people. You've got to see the best in people. And if you don't, it's going to be very difficult to lead. Because if there isn't that trust piece in there,
Right.
they're not going to trust you either.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. So you've mentioned a few people today. If you had to pick 3 people in your business journey that you're most grateful for being there and helping with your growth, who would those 3 people be, and how did they help you?
Yeah. So, first and foremost is probably my wife. So, I think that getting married and having kids has given me a lot of perspective in that, it's not about me.
Mm.
It's about something bigger. And she has always been there as someone who has supported my craziness and allowed me to do. She knows what this makes me happy. And this is what I was kind of called to do. And we talk about that a lot. And she's just been a huge supporter of mine. So grateful for her and her support. Over really, we've known each other since we were in seventh grade.
Oh, wow.
Now I had to convince her that getting married would be a good idea, but you know how that goes. The other person that I would say
Oh,
is
sorry,
my brother.
Chad. I know you mentioned her name earlier, but can you tell us all what your wife's name is again?
Yeah, my wife's name is Emily.
Emily.
Yeah, and the other person that immediately comes to mind is my brother. So I get the privilege of working alongside my brother every single day, which is really cool. So my best friend, I get to work with them. So not a lot of people can say that.
That's cool.
And our relationship is one that when I tell people how it operates, I can sense kind of the envy of that. And and not in like ooh, look what we have, more so just like the gratitude that I have that everything has kind of transpired the way it has. He's good at his things, I'm good at mine. We've kind of really understood that we just stay in our lanes, and we're able to make decisions without consulting the other. And I trust him, he trusts me, and it's a lot of fun. And I think really the rest of the company kind of feeds off of that, um, because they see us working well together, picking on each other at times and all that's fun stuff. But I think that kind of sets the tone for how we operate. And then the other person is a longtime employee of ours, who has been here. She's not even really an employee. She's more a member of the family now, but her name is Christy. She's been with us for 22 years, I believe, this past January. She served in just about every role. She started with my dad when they were, maybe 12 or 15 people. Now she's our operations manager, looking over, a company of 350 people. And to watch her and watch her loyalty, as we've changed and probably done stuff that she's been like, whoa, what's going on? And she's just really helped us. And I think most importantly, one of the things that's been most gratifying for me is watching kind of her growth journey. If you would have asked her when she first started, hey, do you think you could lead a company of this size? I'm sure she would have, I think she was probably in her early 20s. If she was ever going to do this, obviously that'd be hard to see. But just to watch her kind of come into her own and do things, hopefully that, whether she thought she could or couldn't, she's doing them. And that's really cool to see.
Fantastic. Awesome. And what's your brother's name?
My brother's name's Tyler.
Tyler. All right.
Yep.
Wonderful. So as we think about the future, Chad, and the next 3 to 5 years, what do you feel are the biggest challenges that you're going to face to hit those big, hairy, audacious goals that you were talking about earlier? And who are the types of people that you're going to need around you to help solve those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the challenges is becoming truly a learning organization. And so we've really doubled down on that by creating our own training department. So we created our school back in 2020 where we train our own technicians. We'll have a class graduating here at the end of March of, I think, 17, and then we'll have a new class of 30 going in beginning of April. So that's exciting. But we've also got to train the people that we have. And we've got to provide career paths and all kinds of stuff for them to want to stay here and want to progress themselves as we continue to grow. As I said at the outset, the more that we grow our own people, the more the company will grow and we'll be able to hit those goals. I think another big piece is, especially in the contracting space, we've always kind of been a little late to this party, is embracing technology. And how can we, one, provide a seamless experience for our customers, and then also utilize technology to help out our back office, basically, whether it be accounting or call center or dispatch, whatever it is, how can we make them more efficient via technology? And so we've really kind of doubled down on the technology piece. We have multiple developers on staff now that are just creating software on top of software and utilizing all this technology that is out there. And, you know, we finally figured it out one day. I was actually having a conversation with my brother this morning. I was like, do we realize that like all the problems that we would say are problems can be solved with really smart people who know how to develop software? Like we can solve these problems via that rather than figure out, well, how can we have another training with this group of people to like make them like, why don't we just automate that?
Yeah.
And so we get it and we make their lives easier. And so to me, those are going to be the big things. Obviously I say coming out of COVID, I probably should never say that.
Right.
I think we'll
Yes.
always be
Bite
in
your
it.
tongue.
Yeah, I think we'll always be in it. But on this kind of as we've been in it, supply chain and different things like that, stuff that we've never really had to deal with, have made us think and really have stretched us, which I think has been good for us. So long as you embrace it and say, hey, what can we learn from this? I get it. It's a new problem that we've got to solve, but could it help us?
Mhm.
Could it help us by thinking in those instances? Same thing with vehicles. Like we've really had to kind of somewhat reimagine how we use our fleet because vehicles are very hard to come by.
Right.
And they're not sure. I've heard reports that maybe end of this year they'll start to like catch up and stuff, but I find it hard to believe with our economy running the way it is. Now there's other factors in there, but the way it is, I mean, like I feel like the demand is just going to keep rising, and for them to catch up is going to be very, very difficult. So we'll see how that pans out. But there again, it's challenges, and I think those that are going to continue to grow are going to be the ones that embrace those challenges as learning opportunities and continue to move their business forward.
I was intrigued by your comment about the automation. So in general, about 80% of what we do day to day in our business is routine work. So the more we can automate that or systematize it, the more efficient and effective we are. So that insight of creating a software to do it, love that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we've often talked here of basically how do we become a data and software building company that just so happens to sell furnaces and water heaters. And that benefits the customer and our internal customer as well. So we've really kind of doubled down on that and are excited about the things that we can create. And it also provides another conduit to share fortunately, as we've grown, we have the resources to do stuff like that. Not everybody can hire developers and,
Right.
all of this stuff that can hopefully push the industry forward.
Sure. Yeah, and I suspect longer term too, it could be another revenue stream where you're potentially licensing that software out to others in the industry.
Yep, absolutely. So we're definitely excited about that. That probably is one of the things that I get most excited about, of just kind of creating something from scratch.
Yeah. Awesome. So Jim Rohn, big fan of him. One of his quotes that I love is, we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So as you think about that, is that something that you find exciting, something that makes you nervous from a total overall business standpoint?
It's exciting because with today's technology and the connectedness that we all have the ability to share in, connecting with those 5 people, I have learned is all about providing value first. Um, and when you make an effort to provide value, it's amazing what people will find you. And I have, early in my career, when the focus wasn't on providing value, it was more so like, how do I connect with these people?
Uh-huh.
Like, that's an uphill battle. That's a battle that you're going to struggle to win because no one wants to reach out and help if the only value gained is for that person reaching out. And so what I have learned, and something that I think listeners could use is anytime I found people that I want to get close to, I just provide them value.
Mm.
And the one hurdle that you'll have to get over is trying to find ways to, you're going to sit there and go, well, their company's bigger than mine. Well, they're more famous. Well, they're more well known. Well, I've always found that, a mentor can be a mentor even if they don't know it.
Mm.
But I've sent books to people. I've, sent them articles or just all of that stuff, never asking for anything. Because they'll be there. It's creating a relationship. You don't go into a relationship just asking what they can do for you.
Yeah.
You try to help them out. And so I think that goes again back to leadership.
Mhm.
If you have a mentality of wanting to help others, those 5 people that you need in your life that are going to help you move forward, they'll find you. And they're a heck of a lot easier to find if you're reaching out with value as opposed to reaching with your hand out.
Yes, I love that. You said um, it, they they may not even know that they're your mentor. So that took me down the path of we can always read their books or watch their videos, right, or listen to their podcast, and that can still be how we're learning and growing from them. And to your point, they don't even know that they're our mentor.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of that, the flip side of that is you're always leading as well.
Mhm.
So all of your actions and what you put out there, you may be someone's mentor, good or bad. If you're putting out a bunch of like, the world's falling, the sky's falling, I don't know what I'm doing, like that, people are gonna, you know, not follow you,
Yeah.
or you're going to put out valuable stuff and be that positive influence in the world that people are going to latch on to.
I love your philosophy throughout this conversation of, you're always passing it down or paying it forward in terms of helping somebody else. And your feeling, your sense is that, the more value I put out, the more people I help, the more I'm going to benefit, just naturally. It's just an amazing perspective.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I always boil it down to it's a hell of a lot more fun than trying to be protective and like trying to hide everything. Like it's a lot more fun just to like have this conversation with you and hopefully we help somebody and
Yeah.
hopefully someone grabs something from this. Like try it. If that's not you, try it. It's a lot more fun. It's cool to, just see people, I really got a lot out of that or whatever it is. Like that's, selfishly, it's okay to feel good about that.
Right. Yeah.
And hopefully it makes you want to keep doing it, is the overall key.
Well, I can imagine too when you're showing off your space, right, and helping other people learn from the things that you've learned through. There is some pride in that of look at what
Yeah,
we
it's fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I love giving tours. They always tease me around here that I'm just a professional tour guide. But yeah, I love taking people around and showing them what we built. And hey, we've got this team and they do this. And oh my God, that's really cool. Like, yeah, we didn't have that before, but I learned from somebody else. It's just, it's fun.
That's awesome. So wrapping up here, Chad, if there was something that catastrophic that happened in your business, who's the first person you call and what would that conversation be?
Um, who would be the first person I would call? That's a good question. I would probably call my brother, um, just because I feel like he gives me the perspective that I don't have.
Hmm.
And so I've got one way of thinking. He has another way of thinking. And usually, if we put the two together, we can come up with the right solution. So I feel, very fortunate to have that would be my first call to find out, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to move through this? What's here to learn? And how can we continue to move forward?
That is very insightful in terms of you just said he thinks differently than I do. Oftentimes people who have different thinkers, in their leadership team it'll be stressful. And there isn't that appreciation for it. So how did you get to that place where you understood that his differences were complementary and something that you appreciated versus conflict and something you you didn't appreciate?
Yeah, so that has been the result of a lot of training and a lot of work. We had a leadership coach who spent a lot of time here in the Indy area, Jack Needham, and he wrote a book, and had we utilized him for some leadership training and different stuff like that. And the one thing that he always said that has stuck with me when encountering people who think differently
Mm.
is he always says everyone's perfect. Everyone's perfect exactly how they are. And I think understanding, we do a lot of work with the disc profile
Yep.
in communication around the office, and understanding that it's your job as the leader to not celebrate your personality type. Oftentimes we want to celebrate, yeah, I'm a hard D, I'm an I like to have fun, all this stuff. And what we need to understand is we need to be conscious of who we are, but we also need to understand that we're going to run into very few people that are exactly like us.
Right.
And it is our job as a leader to lean into their personality style and understand that I'm going to have to present things differently to the vast majority of people that I come in contact with, because they think differently than I. They process information differently than I. And that has been one thing that I think we've been really good at embracing around here, is that everyone has a different perspective, and
Mm.
that's good. Like, healthy debate is perfect. And we have to fight it sometimes when it's like, well, I don't want to be the person who always, downs an idea. It's like, no, 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 no. We need that perspective. Like,
Yes.
it's not you downing the idea. It's just you coming from your perspective. And there's probably some good things to think about when we hear your perspective.
Yes.
So that has been one thing. It's tough. It's not easy,
Yep.
um, but it definitely will move the needle for sure.
Yeah. I Disc is an awesome tool. We use that as well. And my one of my favorite conversations with partner owners is exactly what you were saying. Is, hey, listen, the whole idea of opposites attract is true. And your partner 9 times out of 10 is your opposite, or at least that's what I found, both in personal relationships, right? Our spouses tend to be our opposite, and in business relationships, because to your point, right, we need that other perspective to be whole, to complete ourselves, to make great decisions. And I love what you're saying in terms of, you understand it, you appreciate it, right, you embrace it, and that's what's allowing you and your brother to work so well together. So congratulations on getting through that learning curve, and being able to see it as a benefit and not a conflict.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Chad, you've mentioned a number of people today who have, who it sounds like you've been blessed with having as part of your journey. If they were all on the show here with us, what would you want to say to them?
I think my biggest thing is, excuse me, that I'd want to say to them is that you're in the right place, and we're all growing together, and we're going to face things that we don't know the answer to. But the cool part is we've got a lot of smart people here, and we've got a lot of people that care about each other. And because of that, we're going to do some really amazing things, both in our industry and really in our community and in the world as a whole. And, I think that, there again, that belief in them is what I want to share. Is I believe in you, and, your decisions. And, I trust that you're going to do what's right for the business.
Awesome. Well, Chad, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. I appreciate your insights, and thanks again for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure to share. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, for everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and post it on your social media. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you next time. Take care.